Welcome back to the Sports News Analysis YouTube page. We're here with our Fantasy Football Week 12 recap. We'll first get into some significant injuries that could affect your fantasy team, and then we'll also get into some of the notable performances from Week 12 as we head down the stretch here in the fantasy football season. We'll do these injuries in order of, I wouldn't say importance, but probably relevance to fantasy owners. The first one being Matt Forte. Odds are Matt Forte, if he's on your squad, he's probably a pretty formidable part of it. Forte hurt his ankle during the third quarter of the game yesterday against the Vikings. He didn't return to the game after that. He had 42 rush yards in the game, but more importantly, what does the future hold for him? The Bears will monitor his progress throughout the week. If you have Michael Bush as a handcuff to Matt Forte, you might be in a good situation here, but if not, it could leave you searching for answers as well. The next injury is a guy that was a popular ad this past week, Jalen Parmalee, the running back in the Jacksonville Jaguars. Obviously, it was a risk maybe you took inserting him in your lineup perhaps. Obviously didn't pay off. He was injured after his first carry. He came back into the game later, ended up with 45 total yards, and then ended up leaving the game again with that injured leg. No word on how hurt Parmalee actually is. If you happen to have, if you had the trio, right? If you had Maurice Jones-Drew, then you picked up Rashad Jennings, then you picked up Jalen Parmalee. If you're in a situation where you're hard up for running backs, we'll look for Rashad Jennings to have a major role again coming to Week 13. Another injury that may affect you, Andre Brown has a broken fibula. So he had 64 yards and a touchdown when he left in Week 12. We would imagine that Brown is at least out now for the rest of the fantasy season. Maybe he'll have the ability to come back come playoff time. But again, Andre Brown broke his fibula after what was a solid outing, based on what you were probably expecting from him if you did play him last night. Brandon Weeden, the quarterback of the Cleveland Browns, threw for 158 yards and a touchdown against the Steelers. Weeden did leave in the fourth quarter because of a head injury. All the tests were good yesterday, but as always with these head injuries, it's worth monitoring his situation as we go on here later in the week. And the last injury to update you on is Kendall Hunter of the 49ers. He's a guy doesn't have much fantasy value as long as Frank Gore is healthy. But if Frank Gore was ever to get hurt, not that we're hoping that, but as a fantasy owner you have to plan ahead, he would be a guy that would be a viable replacement for him. Well, Hunter left the game yesterday after injuring his ankle. And, we'll have to monitor his status as we go along here as the handcuff to Frank Gore. Now, what we wanted to get into next was some notable performances from Week 12 on the fantasy side of things. First, Eli Manning. A lot of scuttlebutt throughout the last couple of weeks that maybe he's lost his fastball, lost his touch, but as you can see, based on his performance yesterday against the Packers, he's just fine. He threw for 249 yards and 3 touchdowns in the win versus the Packers. Do the Packers have the best defense in the world? No, but hey, Manning took advantage of it, so give him credit. Yesterday, during our fantasy football injury update, we had mentioned Julio Jones and that you might not want to expect a big game out of him because of the injuries he was suffering. Boy, were we wrong. Julio ended up with 6 catches for 147 yards and a touchdown. He caught the long pass from Matt Ryan. That was probably the biggest play in that victory over the Buccaneers yesterday. Julio's coming up against a good matchup here. He'll play the Saints next week. So, considering he's healthy, a must start in all leagues. Michael Bush also will be the person who takes over for Matt Forte. He scored 2 touchdowns yesterday with 60 yards rushing. Now, we'll see if if you have him as a handcuff to Matt Forte, or if you just have him on your roster. If that second running back spot has been a trouble for you all year, maybe he's worth starting here coming up as you make your drive for the playoffs in Week 13. And that's our fantasy update and recap for Week 12. Just some of the injuries and some of the notable performances from the week that was. Thanks, guys.